The winter of 1862 had settled over Washington, D.C., wrapping the city in a bitter cold that mirrored the weight of the war pressing down on the nation. The White House, though grand and imposing, felt more like a fortress besieged by sorrow. Inside its dimly lit halls, Abraham Lincoln sat hunched over his desk, a stack of casualty reports before him. The flickering oil lamp cast long shadows across the room, deepening the lines of exhaustion on his face. He had spent another sleepless night reading letters from grieving mothers, widowed wives, and orphaned children. Letters pleading for answers, for justice, for mercy. And now, another plea stood at his doorstep. Outside the White House gates, a young Union soldier shivered in the frigid air, his thin uniform no match for the cold that seeped into his bones. Private William Scott had never imagined himself standing before the leader of the nation. But here he was, gripping his cap tightly in trembling hands. He had no illusions about what awaited him. His crime was clear: sleeping on duty in a time of war. The punishment was even clearer: death. A lesser man might have given up. But William was not just fighting for his life, he was fighting for his mother, for the family farm back in Vermont, for the promise he had made to come home. It was his fellow soldiers, those who knew his heart, who had written a desperate petition on his behalf. And against all odds, the president had agreed to see him. The doors of the White House creaked open, and a stern officer led him through corridors lined with flickering lanterns. With each step, William's heart pounded louder. Finally, he was ushered into the president's office. Abraham Lincoln stood at the window, gazing out at the snow-covered grounds, his tall frame silhouetted against the pale moonlight. When he turned, his deep-set eyes met William's, studying him in a way that made the young soldier feel as though every fear, every regret, every desperate hope was laid bare. Lincoln motioned for him to sit. "Private Scott," he said, his voice weary but kind, "I have read your case." William swallowed hard, his throat dry. "Yes, sir." Lincoln's fingers tapped absently on his desk. "Sleeping on duty in war." He exhaled slowly. "Do you understand the gravity of this offense?" "Yes, sir," William said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I failed my duty, but I wasn't trying to be careless. A friend, he was sick, sir. I took his watch so he could rest. I didn't mean to fall asleep." Lincoln's expression did not change, but something flickered in his eyes, something between sorrow and understanding. He paced the room for a moment, the floorboards creaking under his weight. Then he stopped and asked softly, "Do you love your mother, son?" The question struck William like a bullet. His lips trembled. "Yes, sir, more than anything in this world." Lincoln nodded slowly, his gaze distant, as though remembering something or someone. He took a deep breath and spoke with quiet authority. "War takes too many sons from too many mothers. I will not let yours be one of them." William blinked, his breath hitching. "Sir, I am pardoning you," Lincoln said simply. The words barely registered. It took a moment before their meaning sank in, and when it did, William felt his knees weaken. Tears burned his eyes. "Sir, I swear I won't let you down." Lincoln stepped forward and placed a firm hand on his shoulder. "See that you don't," he murmured. "Go back to your regiment, do your duty, and never give your mother a reason to mourn." The young soldier could only nod, overcome with emotion. He left the White House that night not as a condemned man, but as one reborn. The stars above seemed brighter, the air less biting. He would not waste this second chance. Months later, at the Battle of Lee's Mills, Private William Scott fought with a courage that inspired those around him. And when his final moment came, he did not fall as a disgraced soldier awaiting execution. He fell as a hero. Years passed, the war ended. Lincoln himself was taken from the world too soon, his life cut short by an assassin's bullet. But among the many stories whispered by soldiers in the quiet of campfires, one story endured. The story of the night Abraham Lincoln had saved a young man's life, not with a command of war, but with an act of mercy. And perhaps, in the end, that is why Lincoln's name still lingers in the hearts of those who seek kindness, even in times of darkness. not because of the battles he won, nor the speeches he gave, but because of the moments when he chose humanity over law, when he saw not just soldiers, but sons.